Hi everybody, welcome to this tiny studio. I'm your girl Nail, and this is Simply Nail's Tiny Studio, where we talk about all things dreads, we talk about all things vintage coach, and we also talk about crochet. And you know me, I love crochet, I love dreads, and I definitely love vintage coach. So this is a vintage coach obsession video. So if you are a returning Tiny Studio guest, you will recall a conversation that I had with you about 2 or 3 bags or vintage bags that I picked up years ago at a consignment store, and how one of those bags, well, 2 of those bags were vintage coach bags, but one of the bags I almost destroyed because I put coconut oil on the bag to, moisturize it. I felt, well, hey, if coconut oil is good for my skin, why not? Why wouldn't it be good for another natural skin such as leather? Right? Wrong. I basically almost ruined that bag, but with my recent knowledge of how to take care of and rehab vintage coach bags, I was able to reverse some of the damage that I did to that bag. Well, if I am correct, I talked about how I gave one of those vintage coach bags to my daughter, which I did. Now, I've asked her repeatedly, whatever happened to that bag? Because I really do believe that was a vintage coach Bedford bag that I had given to her, that I had gifted to her. Well, she recently located that vintage bag, and I'm going to share it with you right now. Now, it is in pretty tough condition, okay? And that goes to the thing that I want to talk to you about, and that I always talk about is taking care of our vintage leather goods, taking care of our prized handbags, and especially vintage bags. And of course, this is a vintage coach, obsession video. So there are things that we need to do to be able to take care of our vintage coach bags. And I didn't always know how to care for my bags. And this is an example of what happens when you do not care for your vintage bags. Let me grab some tea. Today I am drinking some Activia tea. And this tea is a custom tea that comes from a sister who is in the Washington, D.C. area, and hopefully I will link her information down in the description box so that you can support women businesses, support Black-owned businesses. And it's a really great tea, and I'm drinking it today in my Mrs. cup. And it's a little chilly outside, and even though I'm in Florida, guess what? There's a storm coming, and we can feel it. We can feel the change in the temperature. We feel it all the way down here as well. So I'm going to drink on this tea a little bit. That's some good Activia tea, and it changes colors. If you put it starts out as, I believe it starts out as a purple tea, and if you add lemon to it or squeeze a lemon, it turns purple. Yes, and it's very, very delicious and good for you. Okay, so I'm going to show you the bag right now. Excuse me. And this is a vintage Bedford bag. This is a vintage Bedford, and I purchased this maybe years ago at a consignment store. Okay, as you see, the vintage Bedford, it has, of course, the buckle there, brass buckle. When you open it up, you have that raw leather. It has a flap on the outside, which of course is deep, as you see. Then you have the inside of the bag, which is leather. Well, I should say raw leather on the inside. And then of course, you know, you have the slip pocket there. I'm going to pull that out for you. Okay, and here it is. And there is the creed. Okay, you see that? Right. So as we can see, the creed is, I should say, take my specs off for a second there. Okay, so the number of this bag, the style number of this bag is A7C4164. And of course we know the A stands for January, the 7 is 1997, and the C is the location that this bag was manufactured or crafted. So this is a vintage Bedford, and it's seen better times. So this is my rehab project. Now she gave me 2 bags to rehab for her, the vintage Bedford, and she gave me this vintage Dooney and Burke bag. Now I'm not familiar so much with the Dooney and Burke bags. Okay, there it is on the inside. Okay, here is the magnetic clasp. I thought my husband coming in. And it's pebbled leather. So she wants me to rehab this vintage Dooney Burke bag for her. And of course, the Coach Bedford bag. So I will be working on these 2 things very soon here in the tiny studio. But I wanted to, I wanted to show you this vintage Bedford. And I wanted to show you that there are some issues with her. And what I'm going to do, and this is going to be the before look at her. So there are some things that I noticed that I'm going to work on with her. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's a discoloration here on the brass buckle, and that is called Veritas. See that green? That's called Veritas. And I'm thinking it's somewhere else on the bag as well. Did I see it? Yes. It's here on the strap as well. Now Veritas appears on brass and copper, and I believe it's because it comes from a lack of what I think they said oxidation. The lack of oxidation happens, or you know, I might look that up again, but I believe it comes from a lack of oxidation, and when that happens, that's when you get that icky green discoloration that you see right there. That's called Veritas. So how am I going to get it off? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of toothpaste, and I'm going to put it on a Q-tip, cotton swab, and I'm going to see if I can use the toothpaste to get most of it off. If it does not come off, then I'm going to use some vinegar or some lemon juice. I've also seen rehabbers use vinegar and a little salt, and I'll be using that to get the Veritas off. And in another video, I think I'm gonna do that process with you. I'm going to invite you into the studio where we will actually rehab this together, and we're going to use those 3 methods. We're going to use some toothpaste, we're going to use the vinegar, we're going to use lemon juice, and then we're going to use the vinegar and the salt together and see if that is enough to get this off. Now, of course, I'm going to I really don't think that she needs to be dunked or anything. I think that she's fine. I think she just needs to, you know, just a little leather love on here. So I'll probably use some leather conditioner, some leather cleaner on this bag, on this bag. Now, as a matter of fact, it'll be both bags where I'll use the leather cleaner and the leather conditioner to really get it to look, you know, bring it back to its former beauty, its former glory. And with leather, you can really most definitely do that. And there's something else on this bag that I thought about, and I said, oh, right here, there's a tear here. Can you see that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order some leather needles and some thread that some thread that you can use on leather, and then I'm going to repair that myself. Now that will most definitely be a first. I have a sewing machine, but I think I want to, it's small enough for me to hand stitch. If you can see that tear there. It's small enough for me to hand stitch. So this is going to be a really great project for me because there are going to be 3 things that's going to have to be done to this bag. The first thing before, you know, the main thing that we're going to do in getting this Bedford back on the road to recovery, the first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to get rid of this Veritas. We're going to get rid of all of that first. The second thing we're going to do is we are going to clean her out really well. And I think there's some Veritas on the inside of this bag as well. Let's see. Yes. There's some Veritas on the slip pocket zipper. So we're going to remove all the Veritas. We're going to remove all of the debris, and then I'm going to do a good assessment as to why, or as to whether or not I'm going to dunk it. But I really don't feel that it needs to be dunked, especially inside. But I do see that there is candy or gum or something on there. Can you see that? I don't know what that is. But I'm going to, I really still do not believe that I need to dunk it because the condition of the bag is very good. So it just needs some things to be done. Now let me tell you something. In the days before I actually knew how to rehab a vintage Coach bag, I probably would have tossed this. I most definitely would have tossed this bag, you know, because I've been like, oh, look at that icky green stuff. What's that? I just threw it in the trash. You know, that's what I would have done. But if you look at the pre-love market today for Bedfords, you can, usually Bedfords are going to run you from $80 to maybe $150 now on the pre-love market. So, you know, you don't want to throw away money, right? No, you don't want to throw away money. So now that I know what to do, I'm going to rehab this bag. I'm going to order the needles, the leather needles, and the thread, so I can hand stitch this spot where it tore a little bit. And I'm going to bring her back to life. I'm going to bring her back to life, and my daughter is going to be so happy to carry this vintage Coach bag. And in the process, I'm going to show you, Tiny Studio guests, how you can rehab a vintage Coach bag or a leather bag that you may have found at the thrift store somewhere, or at the Salvation Army, or at a consignment shop. I'm going to show you how you can rehab your bag and give it life, bring it back to life, and carry it, and possibly be able to pass it down to other generations if necessary, if you want to, or put it back on the pre-love market and make a little cash. I love my vintage Coach bags, and I really don't, I don't part with them. So, I collect them. So, I don't really, get into, selling them, but I do buy them. So, that's what we're going to do within the next couple of videos, a couple of weeks, with this vintage Bedford bag and the vintage Dooney and Burke bag. These are my daughter's bags, and this is the bag that I gifted her some years ago, that I purchased from a consignment store, and it's in excellent condition. I mean, let me see, it was made in 1997. What is that, 26 years, 25 years? I mean, that's good for a really, for a leather bag. There's actually nothing else wrong with it. It just needs to be cleaned, and well, that's it. So in the next few videos, we're going to tackle that Bedford, and I guarantee, I really believe that it's going to look good in the end. So thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the Tiny Studio. I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel. My goal is to get to reach 1,000 subscribers, and if you are watching this video and you have not subscribed to Simply Nails Tiny Studio, please do so now. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time here in the Tiny Studio with more rehab, coach talk, and other things. Okay? Have a great day. Bye-bye.